You don't yell. You don't argue. You don't explain how you feel. When something hurts you, you just go quiet. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you have too much to say, and none of it feels safe. So you swallow it, and let the silence speak for you. People think you're fine. They think the silence means you're calm. They don't realize it means you're drowning. This is the psychology of people who go quiet when they're hurt. And it's not weakness. It's a learned response. Let me explain. At some point, you learned that your pain made people uncomfortable. That expressing hurt led to more hurt. That being emotional meant being dismissed, or mocked, or ignored. So you stopped. Not all at once. But slowly, you trained yourself to hold it in. To process alone. To protect others from the weight of what you actually feel. And eventually, silence became your default. Not because you don't feel, but because you feel too much to risk being misunderstood. This usually starts in childhood. Maybe you grew up in a home where emotions were inconvenient, where crying was met with "stop being dramatic," where anger was met with punishment, where sadness was met with "other people have it worse." So you learned the lesson early. Your feelings are a burden. Keep them to yourself. And you did. You became the easy child, the one who didn't cause problems, the one who handled things alone. But here's what nobody saw. You weren't handling it. You were hiding it. There's another layer to this. When you go quiet, you're not shutting down. You're protecting yourself from escalation. Because you've learned that words don't always help. Sometimes they make things worse. You say how you feel, and suddenly you're the problem. You're too sensitive. You're overreacting. You're making it a big deal. So now, before you speak, you calculate. Is this worth the fight? Will I be heard? Or will I just end up more hurt than before? And most of the time, the answer is silence. Not because you're passive, but because you're tired of bleeding for people who don't notice you're wounded. Here's what most people don't understand. Your silence isn't empty. It's full. Full of words you've swallowed. Full of conversations you've rehearsed but never had. Full of things you wish you could say, but don't trust anyone to hold. When you go quiet, you're not giving up. You're grieving the fact that you have to. There's also something deeper happening. Psychologically, this is called emotional withdrawal. It's a self-protective response. When the nervous system senses that expression leads to rejection, it adapts. It learns to suppress rather than express, to contain rather than release. Your silence is your nervous system saying, "It's not safe to be seen right now." And that's not a flaw. That's survival. But here's the cost. When you go quiet too often, people stop asking. They assume you're fine. They stop checking in. And the loneliness deepens. Because you're not fine. You're just good at looking like you are. The people who go quiet when they're hurt are often the most exhausted. Not because they don't care, but because they care deeply and have learned that caring out loud is dangerous. They've been punished for honesty. They've been dismissed for vulnerability. So they carry everything alone. And the weight keeps growing. Here's what nobody tells you. You're not asking for too much by wanting to be heard. You're not dramatic for having feelings. You're not a burden for needing support. You learned to go quiet because the world taught you it was safer. But that doesn't mean it's true anymore. The people worth keeping are the ones who notice the silence. Who ask what it means. Who make space for the words you've been holding. And you deserve those people. So if you're someone who goes quiet when you're hurt, I want you to know this. Your silence makes sense. It protected you when nothing else did. But you don't have to live there forever. You're allowed to speak. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to trust again, slowly, with people who've earned it. Your voice isn't a burden. It never was. And maybe, just maybe, the right people are waiting to hear it. Not to fix you, not to judge you, just to understand. Before you go, tell me, do you go quiet when you're hurt? And has anyone ever noticed without you having to explain? Drop it in the comments. And if you've been silent for too long, comment. I go quiet. Let's see how many of us have been holding words we were never allowed to say. You're not alone. Even in your silence,